Today on JD Cars, we're installing the Bavsound F30 and F80 Stage 1 Harman Kardon direct plug-and-play replacement speaker kit on my BMW F30. So as many of you know, my BMW F30 here with the F80 body kit on it has the Harman Kardon premium speaker system inside here. That includes Harman Kardon tweeters, mid-range below, center speaker up in the dash, rear mid drivers, and upper deck in the rear. This also includes the Harman Kardon subwoofers under the passenger and driver seat, but that's a separate video. We'll be installing the Ghost subwoofers from Bavsound. Got all of our Bavsound speakers in this box here. Quite a big box and quite a few speakers. We also have the Bavsound toolkit. Though if you do want a full in-depth unboxing of everything you receive in the Stage 1 kit, as well as an unboxing of the Ghost subwoofers and Bavsound toolkit, be sure to go check out that video. I'll have it linked above here. Sam and I did a very thorough unboxing, inspecting each tweeter, mid-driver, subwoofer, etc. And I have to say I'm really impressed. I'm stoked to get these speakers installed. We did capture some before sound clips of the stock Harman Kardon speaker system using our Rode mic and a decibel meter, so we should be able to have some sort of measurement aside from, my personal preference of sound, but I have a feeling this is going to be a sweet upgrade. We'll be starting with a front passenger door here. It's going to be identical process on the passenger door as the driver door, as well as the rear doors. It's all the same process, so I'll do a really thorough job on this passenger door, and the same instructions will carry over for the rest of our doors. First tool we'll need to break out is a plastic pry tool to pull off our door panel. Now before we get prying behind the door panel here, we're gonna have to pull off the door handle trim. So easy enough, either start at the top or the bottom and just work your way down. And it should pop off pretty easily. Set this aside somewhere safe. Now using a T25 Torx bit, we're going to remove two screws, one located down here at the bottom and one here up at the top. At this point, we can now take our plastic pry tool and come behind the door panel, working our way down, releasing all of the clips. Once you've released all the clips around the bottom part, we have a series of clips along the top, so just pull straight towards yourself at this point. And do be careful and mindful of the little lock flag. You can press it down to sort of get it out of the way a little bit and maneuver the door panel up and over that. We'll disconnect our ambient lighting right here. And to release the door handle cable, just pull down on the sheathing, remove it from that clip, and unhook it. At the bottom of the door, we'll disconnect our greeting light. And the only connection remaining is our power window switch, but if you rotate your door panel to the right, it can safely rest on the ground here. And we have access to our mid-range and our tweeter. We'll begin by disconnecting these two blue connections. And using a T20 Torx bit, we can remove the mid-range driver. This will allow us to dismantle the Harman Kardon speaker. And we can move on to the top with our plastic pry tool to dismantle the tweeter. Gently release that, and here is our tweeter. Just gonna remove this little sticker holding our wiring in. Set this isolator aside, and it's just a few plastic tabs that hold the tweeter in. You can honestly just do this with your hands and pops right out. So we have quite a few different mid drivers here from Bavsound. We have 4 of the same ones. I believe all 4 door drivers are the same. So 4 of these larger ones here, these 2 smaller ones, these are for the rear. And sort of a little mystery I had was these mid-range foam gaskets. And as you can see, they come like this with the center still intact. I presume just to protect it during shipping, but it is laser cut, so just separate the middle part. We shouldn't need this. And each of these drivers, they come with a thin foam gasket on it, but we're gonna remove that. It's not really substantial enough. And we'll pull off the adhesive backing on this foam gasket. Carefully install that on our speaker. kind of have to pull it around and stretch it a little bit. Alright, pretty happy with how that's lined up. And we're ready to drop this sucker into the car. Somewhat differently than how we removed our speaker, this speaker doesn't have plugs on the side of it. We just have connections soldered directly to the back of the speaker. And to avoid any sort of issue with a gap here or any wire issues, we're actually going to run the wire through the vapor barrier right here. So just pull it back a little bit, make yourself a wee little gap there. Pull the wires through, get our speaker sort of in place here, and we can grab our T20 screws. I'm just going to hand thread them in, kind of just to hold the speaker in place for now. Pull the rest of our wire slack through. Don't pull it hard, just make sure you get the slack out of it. Firmly press down your vapor barrier and hold it here for a few seconds at least. Try to get that butyl tape to grab the foam, make a nice little seal. That's what you're looking for, a nice tight seal. Those of you who've seen my vapor barrier video know the importance of this foam piece here and the seal around the edge. You'll note we only have one blue connection left here. The other blue connection coming down was from our old tweeter, this guy right here. We're doing away with that. It's only one blue connection here, and then this black connection is going to go up to our new tweeter. Tighten back down our T20 torque screws, and we're going to do this slowly. We're not going to jam down on one fastener. We're going to slowly go around tightening all of them so that it gets seated nice and evenly. Okay, and now to replace our stock Harman Kardon tweeter with our new Bavsound one. There's definitely a noticeable weight difference. This one, the Bavsound, is heavier, along with the mid-range. Heavier speaker, good thing. But same size, same diameter, and it looks like it should snap right into place. Let's find out. So that pops right in, and now to route our wire through this piece, we want to orient the wire up towards the top, like so. Have it go over the tweeter. So we'll tuck our wire into this little notch. Get our foam piece firmly pressed back into place here. Route our wire through the foam, just as it was before. While we have that all tucked in, I'm going to get our trim snaps back on. And we'll also pop the tweeter back into place. Just make sure that everything pops back into place. And that wraps up the tweeter install. We can plug in our tweeter wire. I'm going to wrap it around the back of this wire here just to take some of the slack out of it and reduce vibration. And I may even grab some electrical tape really quickly, wrap up these connectors just because they are plastic, and while some wires might not really create any noise, these plastic connectors could definitely vibrate against the door and create some unwanted noise. So just get everything tucked away before we put our door panel back on. So I electrical taped those connections, tucked in our wires, and the adapter actually, it fits really nicely behind this little tab. Not sure if that was intended, but we'll see if it can live here. I'm gonna go grab the door panel and we'll reconnect our electrical along with the door release. I've just popped out the window switch trim because it's incredibly difficult to get this wire hooked up without doing so. It's a lot easier to pull it through with the switch removed, just like so. Then take the switch, plug it back in, and reinstall the window switch. The rest of the connections are pretty straightforward. And there we are. We'll line up the top first, making sure that our lock flag goes through that little hole. Get these top clips resecured, and be careful to line up all the clips behind the door panel. If you don't have them lined up with the hole and you try to push it in, you'll probably break it. Those taken care of, we can reinstall our T25 torque screws. And last but not least, our door handle trim. Just like that, we have already done our Bavsound mid driver and tweeter, and it's time to move on to the rear. The procedure of removing our rear door panel here is identical to the front. You saw me just pull out our rear mid driver with a T20 Torx, and the only difference really is that our tweeter is housed in the door panel itself. You can see mine is tucked behind this sunshade. You may or may not have this option, but it's right here, and I don't believe we're gonna have to remove the sunshade to get it out. Using the little Bavsound pick tool here, I should be able to release the clips around the edge and pull it right out. Grab our new Bavsound tweeter, get the wires oriented for the same routing, slip it in here, and it should just clip right into place. Noticing a slight amount of play in this tweeter. So that's what this adhesive is actually for. It's to secure your tweeters in case they're not fully seated. So I'm just gonna get my wire tucked in here as it was before. Leave that over there for now, and we'll just dab a little bit of adhesive around the edge in a few locations, kind of fill that gap in just a little bit. Probably do that on the other rear tweeter, and I'll revisit the front if needed, but that should do a good job of holding it in place. Now with our nice big thick foam gasket installed as we did in the front, we're gonna make a little hole in our vapor barrier, bring our wires through, and get it seated more or less, and pull the slack through. Let that sit there, and we'll reinstall our T20 Torx. So that wraps up the rear door install, pretty easy, and it's now time to move on to the rear deck here. We have a couple speakers on this side as well as the other side, and I think I'm gonna fold down my rear seats so I can sit on top of them and get in there a little bit better. Alright, so I'm crammed in here. Kind of a move to put the seats down, but you lose a little bit of headroom. Compromise, whatever. But looking at our rear deck here, it's just a little mesh and plastic frame. We're going to use our plastic Bavsound pry tool. Slip under there. Pop up that cover. And what do we got here? 8mm? Yep. That's an 8mm socket we need. And I'm going to use the little Bavsound ratchet to get in here. That should allow us to remove the rear driver here. 2 cords as we've had before. And there's our rear deck driver. It's a little bit smaller than the door drivers. Same deal on the tweeter, 8mm, 2 screws. Pull out our rear tweeter here, and there's the original Harman Kardon rear tweeter. So I'm gonna go for the tweeter first. It doesn't really appear that it matters which orientation we go, but I do want to get our wire routed through, pull it through so that we can plug it in, drop our tweeter into place, and we'll reinstall our 2 8mm screws. Now we'll grab a new driver, and in case you have any confusion, the rear deck drivers have a much shorter wire than the ones in the doors. So bring it over, we'll get our tweeter plugged in, and we'll plug in our wire to the speaker. And just me being overly precautious here again, but I am going to apply a little bit of electrical to our connections just so that they don't rattle. tuck all this in here, and we'll reinstall our 3 8mm screws. And just like that, we have replaced our rear deck, driver, and tweeter. All we have to do now is reinstall our mesh cover, pop that into place, and we're all done. With all 4 door speakers and the rear deck speakers, we can now focus on the front dash speaker right behind the infotainment screen. So the front speaker here is going to be a very similar procedure to the rear deck. We're just going to take a plastic pry tool, pop out the mesh screen here, and this time we'll be using a T15 Torx bit to remove the 5 screws. Just want to take a quick second. Do not drop any screws in the dash. You will be very sorry if you do. And just like that, we can pull out our tweeter and our mid. Of course, we're gonna have to disconnect our 2 wires, one going over to the tweeter, one connected to the mid. There's our old center mid and our old center tweeter. So for this front speaker, we're actually gonna pull off this rubber isolator here. It doesn't really need to be on there, and we need the extra clearance. Additionally, we need to use this plastic riser piece on the speaker. Match that spacer up. Now, at this point, we can hook up our blue speaker wire, get that connected, and there's a little slit right here. We'll tuck the blue connector down below here, and the tweeter is really what needs to come out. Okay, get that all seated. Now we just got to drop the tweeter in, and want to make sure that we have adequate room for this guy. So I'm going to try to slip it down here. Maybe it'll tuck behind. Let's see. And just like that, we've installed our new tweeter and driver. All we got to do is reinstall the little mesh screen. And I can hardly believe it, but just like that, we are completely done installing the Bavsound Stage 1 sound kit for BMW F30s and BMW F80s. We did all 4 doors, the rear deck, and that front center speaker. And including filming, taking a few breaks and whatnot, this took me maybe 2 hours, but that was while narrating everything, explaining it all, and taking a few breaks. So I'm confident anyone can do this at home in 1 to 2 hours, and furthermore, you can do it all with this toolkit. I was amazed. I didn't use any of my personal tools. I did think of a few personal tools while I was doing it, but I wanted to try doing the entire install with just this, and this toolkit was more than enough. I didn't even have to use all the tools. I think we have some other tools here for under seat installation of the Ghost subwoofers, but all in all, very nice kit. I would almost say it's worth buying just for this little ratchet. This guy was key, especially for that front screw up by the windshield. I don't know how I would have gotten it otherwise. But yeah, I'm stoked to try these things out. Sorry to keep you on the hook, but I'm not gonna test them out today. I'm about to jump into the Bavsound Ghost underseat woofer install. We're gonna get those fully installed, and while I'm going to do an initial impressions in that video, these things are actually supposed to be broken in for about 12 hours. So I'm gonna try to get some hours on them, get some impressions, and then we'll revisit our comparison of the Harman Kardon to our new Bavsound. So be on the lookout. We have several more Bavsound videos coming soon. I'm glad to see so many of you excited about this kit and learning more. Can't wait to share it with you. Thank you all so much for watching. See you next time on JD Cars.